Ohio's winters are usually pretty mild, but when it hits hard.
Icy roads, dangerous wind chills, and of course, snow.
Sometimes it's a pretty picture. Other times it's pure danger, with whiteout conditions leading to nasty crashes.
So from the sidewalks to the streets, and even your sinks,
We're helping you prepare for all aspects of the season ahead.
And we know you've got places to go, and we want to get you there safely.
And just how severe will the winter season be? We're keeping you ahead of the winter storm right now on 10 TV. It's the calm before any winter storm, but soon this salt will be spread out on our highways. I'm Doppler 10 Chief Meteorologist Ashley Barrissey. Right now we're at the Ohio Department of Transportation Salt Barn in West Columbus. For the next half hour, we'll help you prepare for the winter months ahead. Our weather team is standing by with the science of the season, including the winter outlook. Plus, Yolanda Harris and Andrew Kinsey have some practical tips for winterizing your home and your car. But first, what does an Ohio winter typically look like? In order to look to the future, we have to look to the past. Here's a look back at one of the worst winter storms we've ever seen in Ohio.
Jeff Maynor is out in it live on battered Interstate 77 with a live report. Jeff?
Cleveland was one of the hardest hit cities during the Great Blizzard of 1978. It wasn't just significant for Ohio, it's often cited as one of the worst blizzards in U.S. history.
All highway traffic came to a stop. The turnpike was closed. The interstates were closed for 2 or 3 days. All the major airports were closed. We were stuck.
From a forecaster's perspective, it was the perfect storm. One system full of moisture moving north merged with another system of Arctic air. This created a massive blizzard right over our Buckeye State. Snow began to fall and winds were clocked at 70 miles per hour.
And the wind was whipping like nobody's business. It was like a tornado or a hurricane, but with snow and ice everywhere.
10 TV legend and director of community affairs Angela Pace was there.
It was one of those storms that will always stick with me, again, because of the absolute horribleness of it.
She was terrified about arriving to work in one piece.
I got on 315, and I'll never forget it. As I started inching my way up 315, and I was one of only maybe 2 or 3 cars on the road, I saw semis along the side of the road. I saw 2 of them. I cried my way up 315. The heater in my old car wasn't working that well, so the tears were just about freezing on my face.
She had to spend 3 days inside the previous television station she worked at.
The National Guard was called out and had to rescue people along the side of the road.
That, of course, is an extreme example, but the folks here at ODOT are ready. So where will all this salt go in the coming months? ODOT maintains over 43,000 lane miles of state, federal, and interstate routes. ODOT plows all interstate routes, including through municipalities. However, state and federal routes within communities, as well as local roadways, are under the jurisdiction of local government. ODOT does not plow or treat state or federal highways within municipalities, local routes, or private driveways. Winter weather changes our lives in many ways. Perhaps the biggest is when we're on the road. So how do you know when it's safe to drive? Remember, the state uses a 3-level system. Level 1, roads are hazardous with blowing and drifting snow. Roads might also be icy, so drive very cautiously. Level 2, roads are once again dangerous with potentially very icy conditions. Only those who feel it is necessary to drive should be on the roads. So ask your boss if you should report to work. Level 3, roads are closed to non-emergency personnel. No one should be driving during these conditions unless it is absolutely necessary to travel. The state is so serious about this, you could actually be arrested. When you're watching our forecast, you hear certain terms. During the winter, that includes phrases like freezing rain and sleet. What's the difference? Doppler 10 meteorologist Jeff Booth looked to the sky for the answers.
Every winter you hear our team of meteorologists talking about snow, sleet, even freezing rain. All of them can wreak havoc across central Ohio. But what we actually see depends not just on what's happening here at the surface, but also what's happening above our heads. Wintertime precipitation starts off as snow high in the atmosphere, and if you happen to have freezing or below freezing conditions all the way down to the surface, it's simple. It's going to stay frozen and land as snow. If you have a layer of warmer air that extends high enough into the atmosphere and then down to the surface, well, that snow is going to melt and it'll fall as rain. Once you start to see a layer of warm air getting sandwiched in between two layers of cold air, that's when things start to get interesting, because that snow will fall into that warmer air, it's going to melt, and if you happen to have a layer of cold air that's deep enough, it's going to refreeze entirely into sleet and ice pellets. Now, if you have a very thin or a shallow layer of cold air right at the surface, that precipitation won't have time to refreeze, and it'll actually hit the ground and freeze on contact, creating the dreaded ice storm. And we've actually seen as little as 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch of ice shut down much of the city. I'm meteorologist Jeff Booth.
Thanks, Jeff. The pandemic changed the spring, summer, and fall, and the winter will be the same. Coming up, with students learning virtually and others both at home and at school, what does your child's snow day look like? Doppler 10 meteorologist Mackenzie Bart talks with districts about plans for your child.
During the winter months, when the wind is blowing, the air temperature often feels much colder than what it actually is. That's what we call the wind chill. The temperature of the air does not change, but rather the heat loss from our skin on the exposed parts of our bodies. Stronger winds lead to more evaporation, which is a cooling process, and that leads to more heat loss from the human body, thus making it feel much colder. Have you ever wondered what makes the best packing snow or snowballs? Well, the biggest factor is moisture content and, of course, temperature. When temperatures are below 25 degrees, the snow will be hard to pack since it's so dry. Now, when the temperature is higher than 32 degrees, the snow will be more wet and more of a lumpy ball of ice. But when temperatures are between 32 degrees and 25 degrees, you get the perfect mixture of moisture content and cold for those perfect snowballs.
Instead of using snow days to sleep in, this year some students will still need to log in. While plans for winter weather are still in the works for some, just like everything else this year, Doppler 10 meteorologist Mackenzie Bart is finding out snow days will be different.
Snow day, that magical phrase that meant sleeping in, sledding, and meeting up with friends. Well, that precious snow day we can all remember might be a thing of the past. As we approach December, each school is setting up their own plan for winter weather. I reached out to the Ohio Department of Education, and they said it's up to the individual schools to handle their inclement weather plans. Olentangy schools are using a hybrid attendance model and virtually committed distance learning model. However, those students will still be making snow angels during days off.
There's nothing more fun for students and staff to have an unexpected snow day or even a delay for 2 hours. So I am happy for them that they still get to get excited about that and wonder if it's going to happen, if it's not going to happen.
Other schools, like Columbus City Schools, Hilliard City Schools, Southwestern City Schools, and Dublin City Schools, have teams still working on their plans. They say the circumstances just keep changing, so they're not ready to commit one way or another.
The logistics of everyone is pretty trying at times.
The Tucker family has been juggling the hybrid learning schedule with 3 kids at Upper Arlington School District. Their family finds snow days to be an exciting time to spend with each other and hopes that they can keep that tradition.
Probably sad because they would be having all the fun and I'd be having to work.
Districts like Dublin are continuing to narrow down their winter plans, but with students being well adjusted to learning virtually, it does seem like during inclement weather, virtual learning could still happen. Of course, we'll continue to keep you updated on those final snow day plans on 10TV.com. Reporting from Dublin, meteorologist Mackenzie Bart, 10TV News.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Winter is coming, whether we like it or not, but there are things we can do to alleviate the seasonal shift. Coming up, Yolanda and Andrew join us with ways to winterize your home and your car, and a little later, the science behind predicting just how severe the season could be.
When we talk about snow, the temperature has a huge impact on how much we actually get. A typical snowfall has about a 10-to-1 snow to liquid ratio. That means 1/4 of an inch of precipitation will produce about 2.5 inches of snow. That's pretty common when temperatures are right around freezing. If it's really cold, say down near 0 degrees, that same 1/4 of an inch of precip could produce upwards of 10 inches of snow. A fluffy, powdery snow, not great for building snowmen, but much easier to shovel.
When the wind chill drops below zero, unprotected skin like fingers and toes can be prone to frostbite within minutes. Take a look. Within 30 minutes, frostbite can occur with the feels-like temperature of 10 to 20 below, and even quicker the colder it gets. So bundle up.
The cooler winter weather will soon have you looking for ways to stay warm inside. But before you reach for that thermostat, 10 TV's Andrew Kinsey has a look at ways to avoid a high electric bill.
Winter weather, freezing temperatures, and snow. A combination that can lead to big problems and even bigger bills inside your home. But winterizing your home before the temperatures drop can make all the difference, sparing yourself a headache and some cash with just a few simple steps. The goal is to help your house hold in heat longer. Experts say the longer the heat stays inside, the less your furnace will have to run.
You can install a door sweep very easily. You can purchase those at any hardware store. And actually, it's very easy to install.
Gaps between doors and windows are problem spots in most homes, allowing the warm air to seep out.
So around the windows and doors, there's weatherization material that you can use that you could actually plug those gaps.
Small and easy fixes with materials from the local hardware store. Changing the filter on your furnace is another way to help keep the energy costs down. The cleaner the filter, the less the fan has to work to keep you cozy. And avoid frequently changing the temperature on your thermostat by using a programmable or smart thermostat.
Take advantage of the scheduling feature on those thermostats.
Simply set it and forget it, and watch the savings roll in. For 10 TV, I'm Andrew Kinsey.
Thanks, Andrew. Experts say another simple way to save is by replacing those incandescent light bulbs in your home with LED bulbs. And don't forget your pipes. When it gets really cold, you'll want to consider letting water drip from your faucet. From your home to the road, did you know that salt like this isn't very effective against ice on the roadways in bitterly cold temperatures? Take a look at this chart. You can see that at a temperature of 30 degrees, 1 pound of salt will melt 46 pounds of ice. As the temperature drops, salt's effectiveness slows to the point that when you get down near 10 degrees or below, salt hardly works at all. And that is just one component of winter we need to worry about behind the wheel. Yolanda Harris has some great advice from AAA.
Driving conditions during the winter months can be hazardous. It's important to make sure your vehicle is up for the challenge. AAA recommends winterizing your ride before the cold weather hits.
It's a great idea to make sure that you are taking care of your car ahead of time to avoid that cost and that time down the road.
Getting your vehicle serviced is a good first step. Make sure the window defrosters are working and have the brakes and battery tested.
We find about 2/3 of people don't check their battery before it dies. And so it's just something that you can do to prevent being stranded during the winter.
Switch over to winter tires and keep checking the pressure.
A lot of people have those tire sensors on their vehicles so they can just push a button and see what that tire pressure is. Some of us have to still check the tire pressure with a tire pressure gauge. Either way, you're going to notice a drop in tire pressure when the temperature drops outside.
You can also install winter wipers. They're equipped with rubber that keeps ice from collecting on the blades. And keep topping off the windshield wiper fluid. One good snowstorm can empty it out. And speaking of snowstorms, be prepared with a winter weather car kit. AAA recommends including water, non-perishable snacks, an ice scraper, warm clothing, snow boots, jumper cables, a flashlight, and extra batteries.
And as we get into the winter, you also might want to throw in a shovel or even some sand or kitty litter, or just you can turn over your car mats and use those for traction if you do get stuck in a snowbank.
So what if you do get stuck? Who knows how long you'll have to wait for help. So here's something else you might want to include. For about $5, you can create your own emergency heat source.
You only need 4 items: a metal can with a removable lid, some metal cup tea light candles, matches, and a resealable sandwich bag. A typical tea light will burn for about 4 hours before running out of wax. It's like having a candle-powered space heater. Driving in winter weather can get tricky, so plan ahead and stay safe. I'm Yolanda Harris, 10 TV News.
Thanks, Yolanda. The big question, as many of you are asking, will it be a bad winter? Coming up, what we can and can't tell you about the seasonal outlook.
Typically, our snowiest month of the year is January, when we average just over 9 inches of snow. In a regular season, we get just under 28 inches of snow, but the snowiest season on record had 67.8 inches. That's about 5.5 feet of it. That happened in the winter of 1909 to 1910. By contrast, the winter of 1941 to 1942 had less than 5 inches of snow. If you love a snow day, that probably wasn't the year for you.
Well, hello there. You know, you weather folks have all kinds of fancy technology, dual Doppler this and whatever. I have a quarter and I have the Domanac. And I have been studying the Domanac, and I'm telling you what, the Domanac is calling for a beautiful 70 degrees every day, beach-like weather the entire winter, no snow, maybe a little bit on Christmas Eve, but that's it. It's going to be beautiful. I'm here to help anytime you guys need it. The Domanac is always ready.
Oh, Dom, what would we do without you? But we'll take it from here. There are a lot of ways to really understand the winter ahead. Doppler 10 meteorologist Ross Caruso takes a look at just how accurate the Farmer's Almanac can be.
You've seen them before, probably in the checkout line of the grocery store. The Farmer's Almanac and the Old Farmer's Almanac.
We use solar science, which is the study of the activity on the sun, in particular the sunspots. And we look back in time. It's called climatology.
We do the weather 2 years in advance, and we do it based upon a mathematical formula that was developed back by David Young, and we apply it to sunspot activity, planet positions, the effect the moon has on the Earth, and some other components.
2 books with similar methods, but different predictions for our upcoming winter.
The West Coast is going to be warmer and dry. The northern states will be cold and snowy.
That's what the Farmer's Almanac calls winter's Great Divide.
The region that we're in, it has the term of cold and very flaky.
Very flaky, meaning you're going to see, there's snow way out of it. You're going to get the snow, but you'll get the cold.
But not to be outdone, the Old Farmer's Almanac says winter will be more wet than white and not so cold, not too wet.
If the weather comes in from the north, look for snow in early to mid and late December. And then if it comes in from the south, you're looking at the possibility of snow right up against spring.
It's not all about forecasting in these pages.
But all the things that people are interested in on a daily basis that just brings joy and brings happiness and curiosity.
We try as editors to help people be self-sufficient, to try something different.
Thanks, Ross. Many factors go into long-range forecasting the winter season here in central Ohio. Factors that include water temperatures as far away as the Pacific Ocean to the amount of snow in Siberia. Let's call it the science of the season, starting with what some call the refrigerator of the Northern Hemisphere. The amount of snow cover over Siberia this time of year can impact how harsh our winter will be in central Ohio. As cold air over that region of the world allows snow cover to increase, the snow actually reflects more of the sun's energy back into space, making it even colder. That cold air can eventually make its way to Ohio by the middle of winter. The more snow cover can also weaken the polar vortex, which allows extreme Arctic air to move into central Ohio. And if we have moisture in place, that's going to lead to more snow and ice. However, right now, the Siberian snow cover is fairly close to average, which doesn't point to any clear conclusion. But there are other atmospheric factors to consider, like the permanent area of low pressure that sits near Iceland and Greenland called the subpolar low. Just to the south, an area of high pressure resides called the subtropical high. The placement or pressure difference between these systems is called the North Atlantic Oscillation and impacts the jet stream's position, which then has an impact on our winter weather. In a positive phase, the subpolar low and the subtropical high are stronger than average, keeping the jet stream from dipping south across parts of the U.S., bringing mild conditions and fewer storms. A negative phase is the opposite. Weaker pressure will allow for the jet stream to drop lower with Arctic air. We normally see more winter storms with above average snowfall, but as far as this winter, it's too early to tell. So let's go from the Atlantic to the Indian and Pacific Oceans. There is a different weather disturbance along the tropics that starts in the Indian Ocean and progresses eastward across the globe, circling it every 30 to 60 days. The Madden-Julian Oscillation has 2 phases. During enhanced phases, there is rising air, which creates thunderstorms. The suppressed phase is when the air sinks, causing the weather to be sunny and dry. If a strong MJO were to develop, it can lead to greater precipitation on the West Coast and more frequent and intense outbreaks of cold air across the eastern U.S. Mike Halpert from the Climate Prediction Center explains more.
But it only then will persist and give us a pattern for maybe a couple of weeks, as opposed to what we can sometimes see, which is a far more persistent type winter, when we're dealing with either El Nino or La Nina.
So let's dive more into El Nino and La Nina. These weather patterns are all about the warm tropical surface water in the Pacific Ocean. Normally, trade winds push warm surface water eastward towards Asia. In certain years, trade winds are stronger, causing cooler water to surface in the eastern Pacific. During a La Nina winter, the warmer water that moves west has a huge impact on the jet stream. As a result, the Arctic jet is farther south. In fact, as far south as Ohio. That means we would be on track for above average precipitation. Although it's hard to forecast whether that means it will be rain or snow because that's dictated by the temperatures.
And what determines the locations that see snow is the storm track. So if the storm is to the east of your location, you're likely to be in the colder air. And if the air is cold enough, you'll see snow. If the storm is to the west of your area, then you're going to be in the warmer air and you're going to see rain.
So we just threw a lot of science at you that still leaves us with some uncertainty. But I'll leave you with this. The latest 3-month outlook put out by the Climate Prediction Center that takes into account many factors has our temperatures above average and precipitation close to normal through this winter season. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. No matter what happens weather-wise, the Doppler 10 Weather Team will have your back. Download the free 10 TV app and check in with us morning, day, and night to stay ahead of the winter storm.